Record. Okay, we are on the line with Morgan Murray. He has been on the Right Project podcast before promoting his book Dirty Birds, but this time is different because this time Morgan Murray and Dirty Birds were on the 2021 long list for the CBC Canada Reads. Some would consider like the big thing for book reading in Canada, which just is a huge honor and something I will never get to do. Um, but
Don't count yourself short.
yeah, that's true. That's true. How did that feel? Tell me about that experience, what it was like when you found out, all that, how you found out, that kind of stuff.
Well, thanks for having me again. Great to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Geez, what a shock and surprise. Canada Reads is weird because it's not like all the books that came out this year. It's all the books ever, really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Oprah Book Club of Canada in some ways, with more fighting. And so never in a million years did I ever expect to. It wasn't even on my radar. I didn't know when the list was coming out. I didn't know who or what or anything. And I got an email on the Monday from the publisher at Breakwater and said, "Happy New Year! Surprise! I can't tell anyone for 24 hours till CBC announces it, but this is happening." And I was like, "Holy smokes, this is something!" And I tried to keep it a secret, but my wife found out pretty quickly because I was squealing and jumping up and down and
Of course.
going, "Holy smokes!" Using some other words. So yeah, it was a thrill, and they only give you a week on the short list to sweat it out, and then they put you out of your misery.
On the
But
long list, I mean.
oh yeah, the long list before they announced the short list. Sorry. And so we had a week, and we worked and got as much promotional juice out of it as we could, and we got a bunch of events lined up and stuff. And the interest in the book went way up, and we
Good.
sold out of the print run we had, and so they're printing more, and a number of different cool things happened that we'll get to talk about eventually.
Nice.
So it was really exciting, and the total surprise.
No, that is, it's surprising to you. Having been one of the early people to read it, I can tell you it's not terribly surprising to me. Um, I'm happy that it's selling
Thanks.
out and stuff like that. I'd encourage people to check it out on ebook or order it online or anything like that until they're back in stock, because oh man, is this a book? Um, I find a lot of lit fiction is about being an artist, and what it's like to be an artist. I find yours is it's interesting because it's almost like a commentary on lit fiction, and that's what rises up above it a little bit, because whereas so much of lit fiction to me is myth building. It's like, let's write my life as a struggling author, but just a little bit different. This is someone deifying so this is someone looking at, in this case, Leonard Cohen, someone who has a myth built around them, and that myth being proven not to be so mythical. You know what I mean? Like the truth behind it, and the um this kind of like don't meet your heroes kind of story. But to
Yeah.
me, it's very like it's next level lit fiction, where it's like it's, oh, we've always been here, and then it's one of those just twists where it's like, let's do this instead, and it's much better.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the it kind of takes a shot at everything.
It does.
uh, there, and part of it is there's a lot of uh, groups and people and things that take themselves way too seriously, I think.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned Leonard Cohen, and for those who haven't read the book, he a character named Leonard Cohen who looks and acts a lot like the Leonard Cohen everyone knows and loves.
but
Um,
is legally distinct somehow.
to a point, yes, but it's fiction, so it's purely coincidental.
Yes.
My lawyers tell me to say. Uh, a guy like Leonard Cohen, like you said, he has this myth built up around him, and he very purposely cultivated this myth of the sort of struggling, tortured artist. He became like the stereotypical poet with his fedora and his black turtleneck and his, dour voice and face, and he'd always seemed so sad. And it, it always surprises me how many people just like love and adore him. And in St. John's, I don't know if they still do it, but every year at Christmas for a while there, they did the Feast of Cohen,
Yeah.
um, where a bunch of talented artists would get together and sing Leonard Cohen songs, and like 1,000 people would go to it at the Holy Heart Theater, uh, which is fine. His music was not without merit. He's got some catchy tunes, but just the way that the guy's been deified is bananas to me, because most of his songs are about chasing women or hooking up with women or being scorned by women. I listened to a lot of them when I was writing the book, and so Spotify thinks I love Leonard Cohen, and it keeps throwing Leonard Cohen songs at me when I'm just trying to listen to some background music. And like the other day, the Chelsea Hotel came on, which is this big like F you to Janis Joplin for calling him ugly while they were hooking up.
Really? I
In
was
the
not
last line
aware of
of
that.
that song, and the last line of that song is, "I really don't think of you that often." But he wrote this famous song and he sang it like every day of his life. And he's got, and if you like go into his the deeper cuts on some of his albums, he stops being so vague and kind of mystical about the universe and love and stuff, and he starts to sing songs about how his like dad was a prostitute or a pimp hairdresser and his mom was a prostitute, and the song is called "Don't Go Home with Your Heart On." You should look it up.
Okay.
It's absurd.
All right.
So, but I never ever got the impression that he was in on the joke, but it's ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
his whole thing is so ridiculous. And so, Leonard, don't take yourself so seriously. So I made him a caricature of Leonard Cohen, and he's the villain in the book, and he's ridiculous. And when Milton, the protagonist, finally meets him, and he's odd, and he's just like, "Oh, Leonard, you're my hero," and they start talking about poetry and writing, and Leonard's big thing is you only write poetry to either get paid or get laid, and if you're not getting either, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And Milton's mind is blown because he's not getting either, and he's doing it wrong. Um, so yeah, just and that whole idea of like you mentioned, the like struggling artist who makes it, and the there's some scenes that aren't too kind to academics in there, and to the hockey bros, and all of
They can
these
take
people
it.
who take their dreams and their lots in life extremely seriously, when in the grand scheme of things they're just as absurd as everything else. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was kind of fun to just sit there and type up nasty things about everybody.
No, no, and that's fair. I feel like there are a lot of books out there, lit fiction and otherwise, about artists and about an artist's life and about like the art scene and stuff like that. And sometimes I feel like it is a bit too deifying or glorifying or whatever. Like, why write about a community unless you have something critical to say about that community? Like
Yeah,
unless there's a critique there, you're just blowing smoke. What's the point of this book right now?
yeah. And like
Like,
the artists in Dirty Birds, the one big art piece, Milton falls in love with a woman named Robin who makes these like really highbrow art house films of seagulls in dumps.
I love
and
that.
and
I've seen those movies.
this this one like big piece of art that features prominently in the book is this guy makes a giant paper mache penis and drives it around town on the back of a military truck like it's a missile.
Yeah.
And so just it's like you said, it's really a commentary on all of this stuff, and sort of the self-importance of a lot of stuff that isn't that important, and acting like it's so important, when you're missing a lot of stuff that is important. So hopefully that comes through in the book.
Absolutely. And it also kind of, like with the Leonard Cohen character, like if he was ever the character, if he ever was genuine, by the time Milton meets him, that time has long since passed. And it reminds me of what happens to a lot of our, this is going to be a very weird comparison, even though it is another singer, but Limp Bizkit in the early 90s. Hear me out.
Legit.
Hear me out, where like so many of his songs were about like being a poor guy from Jacksonville who like couldn't get any money and being angry about that kind of thing, and why it doesn't anything work out for me. And it was just a lot of like rage. And by the time his third album comes out and he's, touring the country making millions, like you said, getting laid off of this rage, you start to go, what are you angry about?
Yeah.
And he's got nothing left to be angry about, so it just starts recycling. He starts using the same lyrics in his later music and stuff like that. And it kind of, when you've created your, I guess the moral is for authors and artists, don't create your persona around failure, because either you'll succeed at failing or you'll fail at succeeding.
That's funny you bring up Limp Bizkit. I did a term abroad in Prague, and one of the big things that happened while I was there was Limp Bizkit came to town to record their CD. This was 2005, so I don't know what. I only know like 2 Limp Bizkit songs. But it was 2005, which was definitely past their prime. And the English newspaper in town caught up with them for an interview. And I don't know if it was Limp himself, whatever his name is, or
Fred
one of the
Durst.
guys in the band. Yeah. Oh, Fred Durst. I think it was Fred Durst. But the quotes in that story were just so hokey. Like, he was just like, yeah, man, we came to Prague just because it's such an evil place and we want to go to that place. And you're like, it's not an evil place. It's just a city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, calm down. Calm down, buddy.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
just
rock
looked
star
up
millionaire. And
Yeah, I just looked up what they put out in 2005, and it's I've never heard of it. It's an album called The Unquestionable Truth, and the cover very much is like a Nazi giving a high like a heil in front of a bunch of skulls. I'm like, all right, we
there you go.
think we're
I got to
artists.
look this up too. Because,
Your
yeah,
Spotify is gonna hate you.
I might have to unsubscribe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was they just absurd, and so much of that stuff, like in the book, just kind of writes itself because it's just foolishness.
Yeah, and
When you start to scratch at it.
we all know people like that. I mean, unless you are very much the solitary artist that's or author that's living alone and never sees another human, which I think is actually pretty rare. It's like, the bear man who sits there and just writes his novels, delivers them in a manila envelope, and then goes back and eats bear soup for the rest of the year. Like, unless you're that, the type of artist that's in Dirty Birds. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good book, and I love the coming of age of Milton, and learning, just realizing that, again, why you shouldn't deify men. And by men I mean mortals. You know what I mean? Or you shouldn't
Yeah.
hero worship people, because in that way it kind of, it's gonna sound weird, but I have your book on my shelf, specifically next to 2 other books. I won't name the third, but I tend to arrange. I'm a lunatic, and I arrange my bookshelf
That's good.
via theme. How do you arrange your bookshelf? Do you arrange it by genre, or by alphabet, or whatever? Or like, and if you do alphabet, do you do title or do you do author name? I do theme. I arrange my
Okay.
bookshelf by theme. and I hope you're not insulted by this, but I have Dirty Birds right next to Watchmen by Alan Moore. Because to me, on a thematic level, they're very similar. The theme to Watchmen, as far as I'm concerned, is like that whole question of if superheroes existed in the real life, what would it be like? And the
Mhm.
answer is horrible, because when they're on a comic page, they can be, gods that and icons that you live up to. But if they were real, they can only be men, and all men can ever do is let us down. And to me, that's
Yeah,
the theme of Dirty Birds. It's like, don't deify artists, because as deities, they can be like, ooh, yay, perfect. But when you meet them, they're just men, and all they can do is let you down.
yeah, yeah. No, I like that. I'm not nearly as creative with my book collection right now. They're all in bags and boxes in my basement because we don't have bookshelves set up yet. But usually it's just alphabetical by author, fiction, nonfiction. But I like that. I like your order there. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't seem like the type that would be perturbed by being on a shelf next to a funny book. So,
No, it's my book's foolish. So
yeah, fair. Fair, fair. All right. Have you read anything else that's on the? I'm actually interested in the Canada Reads process, because you said a minute ago, I didn't realize this, that it's not just books that came out in like 2020. Like Canada Reads can pick from anywhere.
yeah. So I'm not entirely clear on how it all works either. I th- my understanding is that they um, kind of consult with the five celebrity guest defendants or whatever you want to call them on the kinds of books they like, and then the producers pick kind of a assortment of books that might appeal to the host or the guests, and then the guests pick one from that list. So I don't know if the short list is like the three. If there, I don't know if there's a long list anymore. There used to be a 40 book long list that people would
Yikes.
vote on down to 15. So I don't know if they go in with 40 or 10 each and the people pick their top three favorite and then they pick from that, or how. I don't know how they get down to it. It's not like a juried process or anything. And the producers have a fairly hefty say in all of that.
Sure.
Um, and then the hosts or the guests, I mean, they ultimately pick the one book that they want to defend.
Oh,
Uh,
so it's kind of like, I'm gonna compare it to The Voice, because again, like celebrity guests, but like it kind of like that in reverse, where in a show like The Voice, the celebrity talent picks the first round, and then it gets voted on by the public, and the public chooses who wins. With this, it's more public at the start, and then at the end, when it's down to three, the celebrities read those three books.
no, it's the other way now because now there's no vote anymore. It's just the producers pick the books, and I don't know if they consult with the five, and then the five defend them, and then I think it's still the people get to vote, or maybe it's just the defending people. Somehow they vote. I don't know how it all works.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's any book
Probably on
ever.
purpose. It's probably on purpose that we don't know how it works.
Yeah, and it's more a reality show than it is a like a literary prize per se, because it's, like the Giller Prize is juried and they have very transparent rules and regulations and all this stuff. This is pretty much open to any Canadian book ever, and like Margaret Atwood has won it before for a book she wrote in the 70s and stuff like that. So it is open. Some years they have themes. I think they have a theme this year, but they didn't announce it until the long list day. And it's like books to transport you elsewhere or something. So
Yes,
kind of,
yeah, there was a bit of a theme of you can't leave the house, so here are books that will travel you in your mind to other places, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And so every year they have, for the last few years, they have a theme around different things. And so, um, yeah, and I don't know if you know Sharon Bala
I
from
do.
St. John.
I don't know her
She was,
personally. No, I've read her book.
yeah, her and I were in a writing group, and we were still chat every once in a while. But her book was on made it to the finals in Canada Reads the year she was on, and I think her theme was like a book about, or I don't know the words exactly, but it was about like world issues or something. And her book is very much about immigration and refugees and
Yeah, it was
things.
the
So it
boat
was
people,
very,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, that won
uh,
the Newfoundland Labrador Book Awards this year. Yeah, which makes sense.
yeah. So it you know, depends on the theme and stuff, but it's uh, totally a weird out of left field kind of thing to be even included on.
I don't think it's out of left field for you at all. I think this is the start of awesome things for you.
Well,
It's a
just hoping.
wonderful, wonderful book.
Thank you.
What are you working on next now that you're a huge success and now that you're a massive success? How are you going to write about being a failure without becoming Fred Durst?
How do I avoid becoming Fred Durst? That should be on everybody's list of big worries for 2021.
Yes, I should get that
Uh,
tattooed on the back of my hand for when I'm writing. How do you avoid becoming Fred Durst? Just so that I always see it.
just we can market those like rubber bracelets that like don't do what Fred does or something. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna try to remain Fred free. So I haven't started anything per se. I've been this year so far has been insanely busy because we like booked a dozen events in a week
Yeah.
between me and the publicist at Breakwater. Um, so we were trying to do that and then trying to sell this book, and I'm taking care of a toddler half time and trying to work at my day job the other half of the time, and we're trying to open a daycare in the community, and the shelves that they need to get licensed to open got lost in the mail, so I had to build them. So I've been doing that.
All right.
So I've been doing a lot, all kinds of stuff except for writing a book. And I had been working on kind of a proposal for a nonfiction book, uh, dabbling away at that on the advice of my agent. And then when Dirty Birds came out and was it's been much better received than I had expected, and it's done quite well for kind of a small independently published book from way out east.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like it kind of changes the strategic plan for my writing career. That if I followed it up with kind of a more serious uh, nonfiction book, people would be a little bit confused. So I feel like I need to write another novel,
For sure.
and I got some ideas, but I just have to figure out which idea will be the first idea, and then do it.
I feel like the without getting into local book publishing real quick, I feel like the lockdown in Newfoundland and and Canada and the pandemic and stuff like that kind of upended local publishing a little bit. I feel like of the two big publishers in the province, there's one publisher that does better rurally, and there's one publisher that does better in urban environments. But the problem is, in an urban environment, there's a lot of competition. Like there's
Yeah.
movies and there's stuff to do, and there's always stuff to do. Suddenly, there was a 6 month to 8 month period where there wasn't anything to do in this urban area besides read books. So people went out and bought, and yours was the newest one. So I think there's a weird benefit that happened there where it did get on people's radar because everyone was stuck inside and needed to read. And I know I picked it up several times during the lockdown.
Yeah, it's been strange. I don't know any other way because this is my first book, but there's a lull that lets you kind of pop up where you probably wouldn't have if other things was going on. So, for instance, um, just because Milton, Ontario, is from Saskatchewan,
Yep.
and the first part of the book is based in Saskatchewan, like the first two or three chapters, not a lot of it.
Yep.
Um, just sent out a press release to I just like Googled all the media in Saskatchewan and got email addresses and sent out a press release that said book based in Saskatchewan is getting good reviews or so. I can't even remember. um, but just to like say what the book was. And then I did it again when the long list came out. And I've been on the radio in Saskatchewan more in the last like 2 or 3 months than I've like talked to my own mother.
Yep.
And I was on French CBC Radio Canada in Saskatchewan. They asked me if I wanted to do an interview, and I was like, "You don't want me on trying to speak French." So they found somebody to read the book and like give their review. Um, and from what I could tell, they liked it. I have no idea really, but yeah, I've been on multiple CBC interviews. I've been in all different kinds of newspapers and stuff. Um,
Awesome.
and you would think on in like a non-pandemic year when there was more going on, that probably wouldn't happen
No.
as easily. So I've benefited a lot that way, and hopefully that's helped get the book kind of noticed a bit more. It's funny, CBC is a huge player for books in Canada.
Yep.
Not just Canada Reads, but all the different awards they do and everything. And they're like the biggest media conglomerate in the country. And I don't know how interrelated it all is and stuff, but like once you get on, uh, I've been on CBC in Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and Quebec and Saskatchewan and Alberta, I think. So like once you get on the CBC enough, somebody starts to notice, and then you kind of start popping up on their CBC books recommended reads for the fall lists, and then
Soon you'll
things
be
start to happen that
a
way.
political pundit. They'll start calling you in for other stuff beyond stuff. Or like,
Yeah, I'll
look,
be on the National.
yeah. Here to discuss the new economic plan for Canada is Morgan Murray.
Hey,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
yeah.
Call me up, Peter Mansbridge. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, so the character of Milton, Ontario is from Saskatchewan. Your next book, I'm gonna say right now, the character should be named Ellen Ontario from Milton or Ellen Saskatchewan from Ontario. Just,
Yeah.
because.
Regina, Saskatchewan, and she's the rodeo queen from Quebec. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. Got to keep this trend going. It's got to be place name. That's the continuity. Is a place name from another place.
Well, the most exciting thing we've been booking virtual events on this. I'm calling it the Canada Reads Loser Tour now. And so we've got pretty much one event of some kind or an interview or whatever lined up each week until pretty much March. But the Milton, Ontario Public Library caught wind of the book about Milton, Ontario, and they lost their damn minds.
Of course they did.
I got 2 emails, 2 Facebook messages, a bunch of Facebook posts from like several different people who work at this library being like, "Oh my God, we need to do an event. This is the greatest thing ever." So Milton, Ontario will be in Milton, Ontario on January 28th, I think. And it's going to be a good time. I'm sure of it.
It's going to be lit, Urary. Well, this is wonderful. Thank you again for coming on the Right Project podcast. Everyone out there, if you haven't already, check out Dirty Birds by Morgan Murray, which was longlisted on Canada Reads for 2021. Thank you so much for coming on again, Morgan.
Thanks so much for the chat. I really appreciate it. And thank you for always sort of supporting the book and all books. So
absolutely, as much as I can.
All right. Thanks.